Okay, guys, any questions, comments, anything we need to know? Okay, just as a reminder, on Wednesday, you have to take what is called the MAP, M-A-P test. I'm sure you've been hearing about these. So it's at 8 in the morning on Wednesday. The information will be on Canvas. It's also going to be available. It'll be on Remind. You'll get a message at like 7:50, something like that. Okay. So it's nothing to be nervous about, nothing you need to study for. As far as I know, it's the highest difficulty level is Algebra 2. So you're not going to see anything involving calc or pre-calc or anything like that. It's just something the school's mandating that you take. So do your best. If it has your name attached to it, you should do your best. But I wouldn't be nervous or scared about it or anything like that. Does anybody have any questions?
Mr. Baker?
Yep.
It's just two, right? Like math and English?
As far as I know, yes, there's one tomorrow, one on Wednesday. English tomorrow, and math is on Wednesday.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Will we be going on this Zoom link?
No, it's going to be a separate one. They made me create, I think it's a separate one. I had to create a separate Zoom thing for that map test on Wednesday. So just be on the lookout. I'll send it to you on Remind at 7:50, and it'll also be posted on campus. So just follow the link. It'll get sent to you. Okay. All right, last call. Any questions? Okay, then let's start to go over multiple choice then. Hang on, I gotta find it. Let's see. All right, so we're not going to do every single one of these. We'll do most of them. So starting with this one, if it's something you want to see, talk to me. I'm going to assume this first one you guys want to see. Is that correct? Talk to me, guys. Get voices going here. Don't just chat. Yeah. I can't. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
I can't see the chat screen when I share my window. All right, so it tells you that f prime of x is equal to 2 over x. It also tells us that f with the square root of e plugged in is equal to 5. And they want you to find f of e. So I'm going to get out of the share screen so we can see better. All right, so here we are. So they give you 3 things. Well, they give you 2 things and they ask you to find, they want you to find the third. So with that in mind, what kind of ideas do we have? They give me f prime and they're asking me for f with something plugged in. So what does your instinct tell you we need to do? Are we going forwards or are we going backwards?
We're going backwards.
How do we go backwards?
Integrate.
Correct. So the first thing we need to do is we got to hop backwards here by integrating. So remember, if you integrate f prime, you get f. So we don't know quite yet how to work e into all of this, but I know that if I can at least get to f of x, then we've got something to work with. So if I integrate f prime, now I've got the integral of 2 over x dx, and that's going to be equal to something. And whatever that something that it's equal to, that's going to be f of x, right? Because remember our rule, if you integrate f prime, you get f. Okay, so that's it. What happens when you integrate 2 over x? What did you get?
Natural
Two,
log.
yeah.
2 ln x or natural log x squared?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can think of this as a 2 out front of 1 over x. And then if you integrate that either way, you're going to be getting 2 then natural log x plus c, which is really, for this particular problem, we're going to want to slide that in the front there. So, I mean, actually, it's completely optional. You don't have to. If you want, though, you can say that's natural log of x squared plus c. Okay, so they mean the same thing. Does anybody have any questions on that? So we'll pick one of these forms, and that is what is going to be your f of x function. So I now know that f of x is equal to natural log x squared plus c. Any questions there? Okay.
Why would it be x squared?
So it's totally optional. So this is a logarithm rule. These two things mean the same thing, whether you call it that or that. It goes back to algebra 2, I think is when they first explained this. So here, side proof. So let's say that we have, let's just look at something different. And let's say we have, let's just say natural log of x squared versus 2 natural log x. Let's say that I plug e into that. We're going to plug in, I don't know, e to the third. So if I put in e to the third to this, this would be natural log of e to the third squared versus 2 natural log e to the third. So what would these results be? This power to power you multiply, that's natural log of e to the 6 versus 2 natural log e to the third. Natural log of e to the stuff is the stuff. So that's 6. Over here, natural log of e to the third, that would be 3, but 3 times 2. So you can kind of see they balance each other out. It's just a rule with logarithms. So you could do this with other numbers too. In other words, like if you had log, whatever the base is, x to the third, that's the same as 3 log base x. So you can just take your powers out front or then bring them on top, but they mean the same thing. All right, so that said, so the only, it doesn't matter which version you pick. I just wrote it both ways, depending on how your teacher taught you logarithms 2 years ago. So what do we need to do next? We have f of x. They want me to ultimately plug in f of e, but if am I ready to plug in e yet? Will I get to a final answer? Anybody? Somebody? Is there any answer choices for this question that end in plus c?
No, you're not ready yet.
Not ready yet, because if I plug in just, this is the answer to the question. Once I'm ready for it, we're just not ready yet. What do I need to figure out first in order to get an answer? I need to figure out what?
What c is.
Okay, any ideas on how we could figure out c?
Yeah, we have, plug in 5 instead.
They've given us a piece of information, right? This says that if I plug in the square root of e, so let's do that. If I plug in the square root of e, I'll get 5. If I plug in the square root of e, it's going to result in an answer of 5. That's going to let me solve for c. Now you just do some math. The natural log of what? The root of e squared, that's just e, plus c is equal to 5. What is natural log of e? What's the power on this?
It's
1.
Yeah, okay. It's 1. Natural log of e to the stuff's the stuff. So that's 1 plus c is 5. C is 4. Now that I know what c is, I can run that back, and now I can plug in what they wanted me to find out. So now that we know what c is, now we know that f of x is really natural log x squared plus 4. So that if we find f of e, f of e is equal to the natural log of e squared plus 4, final answer, 6. Now, that's a pretty aggressive multiple choice problem. That would definitely be one that takes a little bit of work, a little bit of effort. So if that didn't make sense first time around, I wouldn't worry about it too much. But now, hopefully, having seen it, that makes sense, and that's something you can retain for the future. Does anyone have any questions on that? Okay. Moving on, let's go back to the share screen. All right, next one. Should be okay with this, I think, right? Riemann sum stuff. What was the answer, somebody?
10.
Everybody good with 10? Okay.
Yeah.
Next up, this was a tangent line question. Answer was B as in boy. Does anybody have any questions or need to see the work? So as far as these sessions go, you need to do this work in advance so that you're checking your stuff and you can tell me if you're good or not and what you need to see. So everybody good with B?
Wait, I have a question. How do you convert like the standard way? Oh wait, like the way that we normally write it. How do we like convert that to like?
What's the information in the box for you? The point and the slope. What do you got?
I got 1, 2, and 20.
20 or 21?
I got 20, but it's probably 21.
I think it's supposed to be 21. Let's just make that box there. So point 1, 2, slope 21. So yeah, just check your math. I'm sure you just missed one. But okay, so now we rate this out. This is y minus 2 is equal to 21x minus 1. Agreed? All you're doing now is solving it for y. Because if you look at the multiple choice answers, every one of them is solved for y. So this is y minus 2 is equal to 21x minus 21. Add the 2 over. Y is equal to 21x minus 19. So you just solve it for y.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next. Any questions on this one?
Can we do this one?
Yeah, I had a feeling we had questions on this one. All right, so good news is it's easy. Bad news is it was a trick question. So every time you see mean value theorem, you're drawing a curve and doing everything else, and you normally have to find C. Every question we've seen, that's what they ask for. This question doesn't ask you to find C. This question just says, what's it say at the very end? All right, we have a function, yada, yada, whatever. MVT, okay. Interval 1 to 3, okay. And it tells you at the very end such that f prime of C must be equal to, what's the second half of the formula for mean value theorem? F prime of C must be equal to, what comes after that on the formula?
Like the B minus A.
F of B minus F of A over B minus A. Translation, what's that mean in English?
It means finding the slope and then
Just means you just said it. It means to find the slope. So this question's not really asking you to do a whole lot. It's just telling you to pretty much complete the mean value theorem formula. So in other words, when you think about here's the fake curve we always draw, right? It's saying the mean value theorem says somewhere there's a point C such that f prime of C, that tangent slope, is equal to what? What's that tangent slope equal to? The regular slope. So this question's just asking you to find that regular old secant slope. So how would we do that? Well, they give you 1 and 3. So you got 1 something, 3 something. You plug in the somethings to the original formula and find your slope. And you end up with -1 and I believe 19. So that's 19 minus -1. 3 minus 1 is 2. you end up with 10. Okay. Any questions there? Okay, let's go back to share. Are we good on the implicit problem? Answer was A.
Yep.
Yes.
Anything on the factoring problem? The answer was D. It was 2. Okay. Next one, Riemann sum. I believe the answer is A, 290. All right. I would have to imagine we have questions on this one, correct?
Yeah.
All right. Give me 1 second. Let me copy it down and then we will head over it. So we've got x of t is equal to okay, we've got this formula and we want to know what we have position. So make sure you know what you're talking about. X of t, you have position, and we want to know when is the velocity first equal to 0. So first things first, how do I go from position to velocity? By taking the what?
The derivative.
Take the derivative and set it equal to 0.
Got it. All right, next up, how do I derive this?
Yeah, flip it downstairs, the negative t, and then
You could. Give me a more broad layout than that. What kind of rule do I need for this derivative?
Product.
Product rule. So this is something times something else. So we got to do a product rule. So let's start with that. So V of t is equal to, okay, it's going to be first, derive the second, plus the second. Okay, we got a mess here. Derive the first. Derive the first is chain rule with E. So if I want to derive that, it's E to the stuff times the derivative of the stuff. So that's going to slide a negative sign out front. Do we have any questions on that derivative? Okay, so I'm going to try to get the parentheses out of here to clean this up. So this is 12e to the negative t cosine t plus, actually I'm changing my mind. Let's go with minus, and let's write this in an order that's similar. So ignore the scribble. Minus 12e to the negative t sine t. That way it's just easier to see. The 12e stuff's out front. The trig things are next. All right, and again, we're setting this equal to 0. All right, so we got to be able, there has to be a trick here to clean this up. What's the trick? What's the plan? What can I do mathematically?
12 e's can cancel out.
Cancel out isn't the right word. What else could we do? They both of these have 12e to the negative t, right?
Subtract.
Can't subtract them. They're not like terms because cosine and sine are different. So think of it like think of it like this: 12e to the negative t. Let's call that a. This is like saying a b minus a c. Right? What would you just said it? What could we do with that? This is just really ugly math, but we could factor out a, or in this case, 12e to the negative t. Right? So if because the 12e to the negative t's are the same. So if I factor out 12e to the negative t, it's going to leave me with cosine minus sine. Everybody good there?
Yeah.
Okay, next, we want to set everything equal to 0. What's the deal with E? Can I set that equal to 0?
Yeah.
I can?
No, you have to like divide the
So
whole thing by 12.
Forget this story. Can I set this equal to 0?
Yeah, you can. It's the same thing as 4x. No, that's just a number.
So is there anything, here's my question. If I tell you this, 12e to the negative t, and I want to set this equal to 0, Is there any number for t that makes this actually become 0? Because this is the same thing as 12 over e to the t, right?
Oh,
Is there anything for t that would make this equal to 0?
no.
No, right? There's no way. So remember, there's a trick. I mentioned this earlier in the year in case we forgot. Anything with e cannot be zeroed out. You can plug in 0, e to the 0 is 1, but there's nothing that I can set e equal to that's going to actually zero out that equation. So when you get something with e and you're trying to set it to 0, you're allowed to just put a big X on it because it can't be set equal to 0. And then you just work with what's left. And what's left is cosine minus sine is equal to 0. And we want to solve this. There's more than one answer, but the directions were clear. They want the first one. What's the first time the velocity is equal to 0? So somebody tell me, what is the first time that cosine minus sine is equal to 0?
Cosine of
Would it be pi over 4?
Bingo. Pi over 4. Does that make sense? Because that would be the same exact ordered pairs. Subtract them out, we got 0. So at pi over 4 is the answer you're looking for. So let me zoom out a little bit in case you're trying to take a picture of that, because that one had a lot to it. So I'll leave it up for a second. So we took the derivative of position. It got me to velocity. To get there, I needed a product rule. Once I did my product rule, I had to know how to factor. Once I factored, I had to know that E can't zero out. Gets rid of that. After that, you have to know trig. Gets me to at pi over 4 for an answer. Good question. Lots of stuff there. Okay, so that one would have been A. All right, I assume we have questions on this one, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, we haven't done one of these yet. So this is, what kind of problem is it? Let's go with that.
Related rates.
Related rates. Okay, so that's good. We got that part. So it's a related rate. All right, let me draw a picture. So we've got a wall. We've got a ladder. That makes a 90. All right, what's it tell me about the ladder? The ladder is 15 feet long. Got it. Rests against a vertical wall. What else do they tell me? The bottom of the ladder. Okay, the ladder sliding down the wall. So as this ladder sliding down the wall, they're giving me dy dt. Dy dt. Remember, related rates are dt problems. Is -2. All right, what else do they tell me? There's an acute angle at the bottom of the ladder. That's theta. And the bottom of the ladder is 9 feet from the base of the wall. The bottom of the ladder is 9 feet from the base of the wall. Okay, so there's all the picture dimensions. I'll close the screen share in a second. We got to see, what are they asking me to find? At what rate in radians per second? They want to know how this angle is changing. So this is why this problem is different. They say, how is the angle changing? So as this ladder falls, they're asking, how does this angle change at what rate? So they're asking me to find d theta dt, as crazy as that looks. That is what we're looking for. All right, so now that we know that. Okay, so we need to make a formula that incorporates theta. And we don't know the length of that wall yet. So how do we do that? What kind of formula are we talking about? It's not Pythagorean theorem. Pythagorean theorem is only side lengths. We're not talking about an angle. What do we got to work with here in order to incorporate theta?
Well, it's sine of theta equals to y over 15.
Yeah, you got it. Bingo. So the formula we're looking for here is sine of theta is equal to y over 15. So that's my problem, or my formula for my problem. Okay, what do we do next in a related rate? The next thing we do is to take the
Derivative.
And every variable you come across, we do a d whatever dt. Now, theta is a variable. Remember, normally it's like sine x or sine y, or theta is a variable. So when we derive this, it's cosine theta d theta dt is equal to, okay, over here, this in your mind is the same thing as 1 over 15y. So that if I derive this, you should be just getting 1 over 15. However, I derived something involving y. So I'm going to tack on dy dt. Okay, so we'll give you a second to process that derivative. Cosine theta d theta dt is equal to 1/15 dy dt. Any questions there?
Well, how about finding the y? Like, wouldn't that be correct?
Yeah, you could. Yeah, you could. The problem is that if you get a value for y, you're going to have no variables over here. So when you take the derivative, it's just going to be 0. You've got nothing to solve for.
Yeah.
So we got to keep the variable in order to go through and solve for the d theta dt. All right, so now you're home free. We just got to plug stuff in. So what do we know? This is 1 over 15. dy dt is -2. D theta dt is what I'm solving for. What is cosine of theta? Anybody?
-2 over 15.
It is
Is it right?
cosine theta. Cosine theta.
Yeah, 9 over 15.
Yeah, we'll just go back up to the triangle, right?
Oh,
Cosine theta is the adjacent over the hypotenuse. So that's just going to be 9 over 15. Okay, we got everything. We just need to do math. So now this is -2 over 15. And then divided by 9 over 15. Okay, so to clean that up, you flip them. So that's really, now it's up to you how you want to do this. But when you see the moving pieces are both 15, don't do the math. There's no point calling this 30 over 135. That's not wrong, but you can just call it like this. -2 times 15 over 9 times 15. You can just cancel them out, right? So the answer you're looking for is -2 over 9, which is the same thing you would have got if you had -30 over 135.
Why did we move y down to the bottom?
Say that again.
Why did we move y down to the bottom?
Why did I move? Hold on, I'm still not following you. Why did I move what?
Y over 15. Why did we move y to the bottom?
I didn't. I moved it off to the side.
No, but what? Oh, got it. Okay, sorry.
I was just trying to write it as a easier way for you to visual, like this. We're not used to taking a derivative like that. I'm just saying it's like the same thing as saying that, so that it's easier for you to say, okay, cool, that disappears. I got that, and off we go.
Okay, thank you. That makes a lot more sense.
Yep. Other questions, guys? So again, now as the year's starting to go on, you're seeing some more obscure problems. Is this going to be on your AP exam? I don't know. It has showed up in years past. It's not a huge deal. Remember the deal. AP exam's 30 questions for the multiple choice part without the calculator. You are not going to get all 30 of them correct. If you get 20 or 22 of them correct, you did great. You're going to be fine. So each time you get a question, you're just going to want to read it, see if you understand it. Do you know what you're doing? If yes, go. If you read it and you're clueless, immediately skip it, pick C, throw it away, and just move on, or whatever letter you like. Just consistently pick the same letter when you're guessing. You should get 20 or 22 of them right. You'll be fine. So just make a quick analysis each time you do one. Do I know how to do it? And then if yes, you start going. And if you don't, keep going, because there's going to be lots and lots of problems that you do know how to handle. All right, so let's look at Next one. Okay, we should be good with points of inflection, second derivative test. I'm going to guess we have questions. Wait, did I skip one? I think I skipped one. Yeah, I skipped one. Do we have any questions on that one?
Yeah, can we do this one too?
Sure. So let me copy that down. So we've got f of x is equal to all right, it says what value of c, if any, would make this function continuous? So they're saying if I put in 12, 10, 6, whatever, what would make this continuous? So the first thing you want to do is identify what number is this problem talking about. It's all about the number 2. Okay, so we have two different functions. Something for when it's to the left of 2, something for when it's equal to or to the right of 2. So think about this for a visual. Let's forget the real math for a second. Okay, there's 2. All right, we've got two functions, one for the left, one for the right. All right, so I don't know what they are, so I'm just going to call it. There's one. There's one. Okay, if these two functions are going to be continuous at 2, what has to happen?
They have to connect.
They got to touch. So if that's the case, in other words, because if I have that and that, are those continuous at 2?
Nope.
No. So what do they have to have at 2? They have to have the same what value?
Limit, like the same value.
The same.
Right hand.
They have to have the same y value, right? Now, I don't know what that y value is, but in my crazy graphic of scribbling here, does it make sense to say that if it's going to be continuous at 2, they better have the same value, right? So translation, if I plug in 2 for x, what can you tell me about the top and the bottom? If it's going to be continuous, the top and the bottom better be exactly the what?
They must be the same.
Exactly. So we're going to plug in 2 to the top and bottom everywhere you see an x, because this problem's about x being 2. And then I'm going to set the top equal to the bottom and figure out what c needs to be. So if we put 2 in, it's going to be 4 sine.
Wait, can you put 2 in the first equation?
Sure. So I'm just tossing 2 in.
Because it does not include 2. It's
Yeah, but it's still less than 2. So when we're talking about continuity, we're going to be like so close that it doesn't even matter.
okay.
All right, and then we've got 2 going in down here, so that's going to be 4 plus 2c minus 18. Okay, so now we need to solve. We need to do some algebra, a little bit of trig. What is the sine of 2 pi?
0.
Okay, so that makes this whole thing 0. 0 is equal to, I'm going to do a little more math there. 4 minus 18 is negative 14. That makes 14. That makes 7. All right, so the answer is 7. And then let's go back and make sure it makes sense. So now, since c is 7, I'm going to go up here now and say, all right, this is really x squared plus 7x minus 18. So now, if we compare these two equations that I'm drawing arrows between, if I plug 2 into both of them, I better get the same thing. If I plug 2 into the top, pretty easy to see, I've got 0. If I plug 2 into the bottom, I've got 2 squared is 4. I've got 14, that makes 18 minus 18 evens them out. So for that particular problem, I don't know what the graph looks like, but at 2, here's one, here's the other. They're coming together at 0 to make it continuous. Does that make sense, guys? Do we have any questions? That is a very popular AP question. Odds are good you see that one.
Makes sense.
Okay. All right, let's go back. That shouldn't be any problem. That's 1/5. Points of inflection, no problem. I didn't really like this question. You can go ahead and ignore this one. It wasn't written very well. Okay, that is a first derivative test. Oh, no, I'm lying. I give you a first derivative. Yeah, it's still first derivative test. So it's relative max. Do a first derivative test there to give you the first derivative, set all that stuff to 0. Make your test, go from there. What did we get for an answer, guys?
I got -1 and 0.
Okay, sounds good. Next one, average rate of change. You will see this on the AP exam, so we don't want to miss this one. This is the easiest question on the test. What does average rate of change ask you to find? Find the what?
The slope.
Yes, so all you're doing there is 1 comma something, 4 comma something. Go from there. Okay. Let's see what we got for the next one. All right, number of gallons of water in a storage tank is modeled by this. At what rate? Always look for the keywords. The keywords are what open up the problem and make this either easy or hard for you if you get them or not. At what rate is the amount of water changing? What does rate tell me to find? Derivative or integral?
Derivative.
Derivative. Anything involving a rate of change, velocity, all those are talking about derivatives. If we're talking about area or amount, those are all talking about integral. So what rate? All this question says, guys, is take the derivative and plug in 3. The derivative is -2t, plug in 3, you've got -6, and you're done. Any questions? What's that?
Yeah, -6.
-6, yes. All right. Any problems here? Answer was B, 1/4. Just take the derivative, plug in 4. Next one was a quotient rule, pretty standard. Next one was a trapezoidal. Am I reading it right? Yeah, trapezoidal. Done a million of those, so that shouldn't be a problem. Next up, I'm going to guess we have questions on this one. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, f of x is equal to sine x squared plus pi, and then they want us to find f prime of the radical of 2 pi. Okay, so first things first, before we start plugging something in that's crazy, we should just find the derivative. All trig derivatives go trig prime, stuff prime, trig prime. Let's get a derivative. Stuff prime. So we've got a derivative. Trig prime, stuff prime. Next, we want to plug in the square root of 2 pi. So this is cosine, the square root of 2 pi squared plus pi times 2 radical 2 pi. All right, what happens when you square a radical? You're just left with what's underneath. So that is cosine of 2 pi plus pi is 3 pi times 2 radical 2 pi. Okay. All right, next, all we got to do is figure out 3 pi. What's 3 pi the same thing as?
1.
Be more specific. We're out on the unit circle.
Well, it's -1.
There you go. Okay. So let's think about this. Here's my circle. All right. So I start here at 0. And as I make my circle, that's a distance of pi. We keep going from here to here is a distance of pi. So now it's at 2 pi. If I keep going to start my next lap around, now I've gone pi units again from 2 pi. So you can call this spot right there pi, 3 pi, 5 pi, 7 pi. They're all the same spot on the unit circle. So this spot right here, he just told us it's -1. So this is -1 times that. So our answer is -2 radical 2 pi. Okay. All right. Let's see what we got next. Is that it? Yeah, that's it. So, okay, guys, after that comes the free response. I'm going to hold off on that until tomorrow night. So tomorrow we'll start with the free response. Bennett, you can go ahead and turn the recording off.